Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast, where I have go-win conversations with fabulous people. So through that, we can get their stories out there. And I believe that three things happen when people share their story. We learn from them, we are inspired by them, and we connect. And from that connection, I believe community happens. And I love to say that community wins. And Today, ladies and gentlemen, it's a special day for me. I was just telling my man Mitch, who you're about to meet, that I have a goal of getting one new person out of my favorite state a week onto my podcast. And so today I have Mitch Brown. Mitch, where you at? Chicago?
I'm in New York, in Brooklyn.
New York, Brooklyn? Yeah, man. Yeah. So how are you doing?
All things considered, I'm blessed, still got a job that's, issuing me a paycheck, and I am still got my health. So, those two things right now, if you got those two things, I think you're in good shape, and you just have to deal with everything else. Yep.
For sure. Now, were you in Chicago at one point? I think you were in Chicago.
Yeah, you're right. I was in Chicago. I've been in New York. This is year 6 for me. I was in Chicago. I graduated business school from Vanderbilt in 2012, moved to Chicago, and I was there from 2012 to 2014. So
nice. Brooklyn, man, how you like it? Have you always been in Brooklyn since you've been in New York?
Yeah, so Brooklyn's been the neighborhood, the borough I've been living in. I'm in right here in Clinton Hill / Fort Greene. I'm kind of right on the edge of the neighborhood, but I love it, man. Brooklyn is a dope place. It's one of those boroughs that I think, from somebody who's moving from the South like me, is a good adjustment. Other boroughs offer some different things. Like Queens is a little too residential. I love Queens. Like, we go visit. I don't know if I can live there. Manhattan is so expensive, so busy, and I think Brooklyn is that happy medium between the two.
Cool. So my wife and I were just in Brooklyn. That wasn't last year, was the year before last. Man, we loved it. We spent about a week out there and just really enjoyed it. I could live in New York. My wife was like, nah, it's too. We live in a small town in Oklahoma, and so going to a big city like that probably wouldn't be the best. But I like public transportation and getting around. Do you have a car, or do you only do public transportation?
No. Speaking, of that adjustment, moving here originally when I visited before I moved, and I used to visit, and like that, being a Southerner, it's abrasive. It's like people everywhere. It's like no personal space. It ain't really the cleanest, that environment that you're used to. So all of that, I think took, even for me, some time to get adjusted to. But once you get bought in, it's like, I don't know how to. Once you're a New Yorker and you get bought into it, it's nothing else better to in your eyes. But no car for me. It's not even honestly, it's not practical for me. There's no, I live in a building. I don't have parking, so I would have to move my car. They have street sweeping and cleaning on certain days. So it's like, I'd have to do that every other day. And I'm out of town for work a lot when things were normal. So it would be more big of a headache and expense than it is a convenience. I Uber, I take public transportation like you were mentioning. The subway system here is, second to none. It gets you anywhere and everywhere. And it's pretty simple to figure out.
Man, you're making me jealous, man. So, man, let's jump into this just a little bit more about you, man. So what was Mitch Brown like as a kid? Like, where'd you grow up? What kind of tell us what that was like for you?
Yeah, I'm a Nashvilleian. I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee. So born and raised. I was born April 11th, 1984. Just actually had a birthday this past weekend.
Happy birthday.
And appreciate it. And growing up in Nashville, I say is such a pleasant. It's a pleasant memory. It's pleasant nostalgia for me. I think it was the best of all things I could ever imagine. I actually grew up in the church. I went to a primitive Baptist denomination, and it was very family oriented. So, I was at a church where my aunts and cousins and uncles were all at church, So that in itself just gave me, a good, the sense of family that I kind of carry with me now. From a schooling standpoint, I started, my mom worked single parent home, worked 2 jobs, put a
Okay.
premium on education. So much so she worked, all the time just to send me to private school. So I went to St. Vincent de Paul School, which is in Nashville, and it actually is one of 2 all-black elementary private schools in the city,
Oh,
and
wow.
with a religious focus. So we have a rich history of producing young black talent. So I was there from kindergarten to 8th grade, and that gave me a good opportunity to in Nashville we have standardized tests for 7th graders called like TCAP, and the idea is you take the TCAP score, and it's used on the basis of a lot of things, but one of the things it's used for is as a metric to get into our magnet school system, right, for high school. So the lottery schools, there's like 3 of them. So I did pretty well, got lucky enough to get into one of the better schools, Hume Fogg Academics, like college preparatory magnet. And it was at that point, it was the first time, Greg, I had went to school with much of a diverse body and population. So that in itself was an experience. It was great. Being there with such bright kids, bright students, taking AP courses and the like. I've always been a big advocate of sports and big participant of sports. I played my first love basketball since I was in kindergarten to the time I was a senior in high school. So throughout, while I was at St. Vincent de Paul, we used to rec shop. We used to like beat teams by the mercy rule and all that. I got to high school, and being at a magnet school, the academics is the priority, obviously. And we're such a small school, it's like 700 people total, right? So we didn't have a football team or nothing like that, but I had basketball, I was all bought in, but the program wasn't really in great shape. I got there my freshman year. I think the senior team like won like 6-7 games the whole season. And by the time I got to a senior, we had turned the program around. We were district champs. We made it like 2 games within state. Played great on some great AAU teams with a good national talent in the area. It just was a big part of what I was doing in high school. Inroads was a big thing for me in high school too. Got me an opportunity and an entree into getting prepared and thinking about college and thinking about the corporate space. I did a couple of cotillions and botillions, and was even in a high school fraternity. And I had a lot of great experiences. And Nashville is one of those cities where it's people think of Tennessee as it's not country, it's very metropolitan, but the city's small. So like in high school, my friends were all over the place. So that in a sense, like growing up there, really having a real good sense of like just family, the city. I remember when the Titans moved to Nashville and Eric McNair went to the Super Bowl. I mean, growing up in Nashville was eventful, to say the least.
Man, Nashville is probably one of my favorite. I haven't been a whole bunch of places, but it's probably one of my favorite cities. I lived in Columbia for a little while. Columbia,
Okay,
Tennessee.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hanging out in Franklin and Murfreesboro and
Oh,
all
yeah.
that. But Nashville, man, I didn't know that when before I moved there, man. It was a beautiful city and offered a lot. I feel like
Oh,
there was a
yeah.
lot of diversity in it as well. And so that's cool, man. So you were in high school. Now, were you one of those students who just it kind of naturally came to you, or did you have to work really hard to make good
Yeah.
grades?
Yeah, great question. And just speaking to the diversity of the city, it is called the Athens of the South. And the reason for that is because it has more universities and colleges in a square mile radius. I forgot what the actual radius is, but I think we got like 6 or 7. And of those 6 or 7, about half are HBCUs. So you got Meharry Medical College, you got Tennessee State, you got Fisk University, and that just in itself, just, in terms of diversity, you got that young kind of always like academia diversity coming through the city, no doubt about it. And, and while we're talking about the academia space, when I was growing up kindergarten through 8th grade, I think it was a natural thing. I think in my first grade class, I was in a subgroup of 6 students that we did a different track. When I got an award in my 7th and 8th grade class, so I think the top 2 GPAs in my class. And I could never really tell you or remember like me hunkering. I can tell you about, frolicking and the fun times in sports more than I can tell you about hunkering down and studying.
Yeah.
When I got to high school, that switched up a little bit. It was still a natural thing. But at Hume Falk, you were around, I think when it came to different disciplines, for example, like economics or physics or biology, right? You know, those kind of things, especially AP courses, required a little bit more of you. And, you know, again, when I got to college, which you see me here repping Hampton University, where I met your, you know, your lovely sister, one of my best friends. I'm sure we'll get into that. It still came natural, man. It still came natural. It didn't really, for me, along my academic journey, get to a point where I really had to, you know, bunker down and focus in a way that was foreign to me until I got into, you know, grad and professional school. So it was always one of those things, just the Lord blessed me with a talent. I'm a good test taker, I tell people. I could sit in your class, listen. You can throw out that test, and I could do pretty well on it, for sure.
So you got a good memory.
Yeah.
Because I'm listening to you now talk about, well, you remember in first grade, we was in subgroups. Like, I can't even tell you about first grade. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, so my son is like that. I have my middle son is like that. Like, he, one time, he missed like 2 weeks of school. Like, we think he had coronavirus. Like, this was here recently. Like, he missed almost 3 weeks, I think. And so he went back to school, and he's about to have a math test on that day, and they were going to do a review. And so the teacher said, well, Zell, you can take the test later. We're just going to let you whatever. And so she said, but we're about to do a review. So my son sits there and listen, and he has like AP math, like it's pretty strenuous math or whatever. And he's sitting there, he listens, and he's supposed to be doing whatever. And so whenever she says, all right, we've got to take the test, he says, hey, do you mind if I just go ahead and take the test? I think I'll be fine. You know, now this dude ain't been to school, goes in there, listens, and then he makes like a 90 for life, which makes it very hard as me as a parent to go like, you need to study. He's like, well, I need to, you know, like he doesn't get it just yet. He's in 8th grade, so hopefully high school, some of those, that's the reason I was asking you that for yourself. Like, what did that look like naturally, or did you have to study or whatever? Because there's definitely a difference.
Yeah, I know Zell's a bright kid, man. I'm sure he's got it. I'm sure he's got something. I could just, you know, I can tell from just seeing him on social media and that kind of thing. And yeah, he's a bright kid for sure.
Yeah. So talking about high school now, you're getting ready to transition into college. Now, what's crazy to me right now, thinking about this, you went to HBCU, you went to Hampton, but you were in like the mecca of HBCUs, right? You were right there in Nashville. Like, tell me how you end up going to Hampton, and what did that look like for you to decide on which college to go to?
Yeah, interesting, because, you know, not only am I right there in like the mecca of HBCUs, but I'm right down the street from like the AUC, or the Atlanta University Center. So, and my high school actually, in terms of young Black men graduates, for the past, I think the 2 or 3 classes previous to me, I think we sent at least 3 students, Black male students to Morehouse every year, at least 2 or 3. And, you know, for me, it was, you know, and I had, you know, one of my good female friends head over to Spelman. So I was really, when I was doing my college visits, it was really when I would start to kind of, you know, kind of whittle this thing down. But let me start here. How did I even know? Or, you know, I always think I was HBCU the whole time, the whole way. So my grandmother used to get Ebony's and Jets. I bet like most people, grandmothers in there. And a crazy little story. She told this to my friends one time. She would get the Jets, right, and they would pile up somewhere. And one day after school, I had got all the Jets out and laid them out in the living room floor to the Jet Beauty of the Week. And I had like a big Jet Beauty of the Week spread in the whole floor, and reading about all the Jet Beauty of the Week. So she tells her story all the time, so I thought I'd tell it for her. But one of the cool things, if people remember Ebony, they used to do like a yearly, basically, catalog or directory of all the HBCUs in the country. And I'm always been a real big geography and kind of history guy too. Like, those are 2 subjects that really appeal to me. And I took pride in kind of learning where all the HBCUs were, you know, like, you know, because I think in Oklahoma, you got Lincoln, right?
Langston.
You got Langston. I'm sorry, Langston.
Yeah.
Lincoln's in Pennsylvania. So you got, you know, I'm thinking, you know, I wanted to know a little bit about them. So I kind of took that strategy, then I whittled it down to 5. So I had 5 on my list. I had Howard, I had Hampton, I had Fisk, I had Morehouse, and I think the last one was like FAMU or something like that. And also, like, I grew up with appreciation for the culinary arts. So this is a little known history fact here about me. I actually applied to culinary school too, Johnson and Wales. So I was going to take one or two different tracks, but I decided against going to culinary school, and I actually did visits to come down to discern really about where I was going to go. So I went to the AUC and I checked out Morehouse and the AUC, and I said, it's cool, but I'm a big guy who's about exploration and new stuff. And for me, Atlanta was something that was in Nashville was super familiar, but even Atlanta was super familiar. Like if you live in Nashville, you go to Atlanta a lot.
Yeah.
In Nashville, from that standpoint of, if I had to stay, I would do something like Fisk, because actually I grew up in the public housing that was right across from Fisk. So I thought it would be something like almost like ceremonious or like, fate driven. TSU, I had a lot of friends go there, but like I already felt like I was ingrained in TSU without going to TSU. I went to all the homecomings. I've been to the parades.
Yeah.
I got friends that attended there, right? So I really wanted to do something different. It was a high school day at Hampton, and I actually had got a special invitation because I was a presidential scholar. I got a good scholarship offer there. And I went there, high school day. For those of you out there that don't know, at Hampton is in the spring, early April, and the weather's changing. And I tell people, if you've never visited Hampton University, it's one of the most beautiful scenes you ever see. Campus sits on the water near the Chesapeake Bay, and like, listen, like you go there on a nice sunny day, it's hard to turn that down. And then for me, it was in that spirit. I knew then, like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. So, it was Hampton for me then, HBCU, following through with that. And yeah, I wanted to get out and explore something new. And I wanted to, I'm a people person. So I think much like you, I wanted to get out. I feel like I had conquered my city, in a way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get out and do some other things.
Yeah, that's good, man. So on your LinkedIn, you went to Hampton, graduated, and I know that you did some post schooling too. Like after college, you went to law school. Did you get your MBA?
Yeah, I got my JD and MBA.
Yeah, JD and MBA. Kind of like my father.
Yeah.
Same route he took. I think you did them at different time zones. Did you do them together?
I did. No, I did them disjointly. Yep.
Yeah. And so on your LinkedIn, it says diversity and inclusion practitioner, entrepreneur, and charity organizer. Tell me about those three things.
Yeah. So the diversity and inclusion practitioner, right? My day gig, and I always say this is about 80% of my time, right? That's kind of how I break it down, because I've always been a person who's, I got tentacles in multiple things. In a way, my attention span really can't stay directly on one thing for a long time. I have to be stimulated by doing so much. So I work for a company, a small boutique firm called the Kaleidoscope Group. So we are a boutique diversity and inclusion firm, and it's headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. And I've been working with them for about 6 years. So when I graduated from Vanderbilt, right, and got my business, my MBA from there in 2012, I moved to Chicago, as I stated earlier. The first job I had when I got to Chicago was with Gallup. Same people do like the polls, that kind of thing. So I did a management consultant role with them around employee engagement surveys, 2 years, and then I left that company to work with the company I'm working for now. And I did that via referral. One of my frat brothers was doing some legal work for this company. They were expanding. They needed some new consultants, so I came aboard. So I tell people, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, it's one of those things that's like a hot topic now. It wasn't something I was looking for. I honestly just, went and had a good interview and liked the people that were there, and I got into it. And it's something I realized that, wow, I'm really good at it. I'm really passionate about it. So what does a practitioner mean? Like in my role, I'm a client leader. So my company hires your company, right, to do maybe some work around diversity and inclusion. Maybe that work strategy work. Hey, Mitch, we've never done anything like this. What might we do? Well, we might come up with some workforce strategy where we help you with sourcing talent and acquiring diverse talent, right? We might help you with your interviewing process, diverse interview slates. how to consider bias in the interviewing process. Or you might say, hey Mitch, I need some focus on my workplace strategy, right? So I really want to work on behaviors and skills, so let's set up an educational curriculum where we'll take your employees through maybe a 2-hour unconscious bias training. How do you design something like that? What is that going to look like, right? Who goes and delivers that? Above many other things, right? So when we say full service, when it comes to diversity and inclusion and things and strategies that companies might have, we're there to help and execute on those things. So that's the diversity practitioner.
What would you say some common steps are for that? Or is it always so different?
Well, I think it's usually always so different. I would say the majority of our business is education. So commonly somebody's going to want to know, listen, we do certain trainings on technical things. So let's say I work for a company and I make sprockets, right? So I might come to a training and understand how to run a machine that puts out the sprockets. Normally our buyer might be somebody who lives in HR, right? Might be somebody who's over learning and development. Or sometimes it's somebody, Greg, in that executive suite, and we got a high level executive that says, you know what, listen, I think diversity and inclusion is important. We've never done anything like this. Let me go out and reach out to some companies that do, and how can you guys help us? So that's usually how it starts.
That's good. That's good. And then entrepreneur.
Yeah, so the entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah, so I got a couple different endeavors and had some couple of endeavors that I've always tried. So one of the things I think we have to do as millennials, and especially young Black millennials, speaking from a point of like historical disenfranchisement, right? Is how do you capitalize on your social equity? And that's one of the things I've been tinkering with and trying to figure out. So I went to law school, and like I said, I had a love of sports. I still do, with the aspirations of becoming a sports agent. So I was able to, get my certification from the NFL Players Association in 1 year. I didn't keep that up because my business partner, we started a mom and pop sports agency where, we had a good run. We had 3 years of having, second round draft picks, right? Had clients play in the Super Bowl, have clients, have huge, 10-sack seasons and the like. So really got into the space of recruiting and running a small mom and pop sports agency and represented, top tier talent in the National Football League. So that was one of my entrepreneurial endeavors. Right now, I'm on another entrepreneurial endeavor, and this is really just, kind of breaking news still, being developed. But right now, I am on the kind of operational and managing like partner a team of a new creative agency that I'm working with called Justified. So we are in our stages of getting ready to launch our brand. And doing some cool stuff on the creative agency side. And, that kind of leads me to that last piece around charity organizer, right? And I think, charity organizer has been a real big piece of my time puzzle. And I would call that, I would say the entrepreneurial was about, 5%. I would say the charity organizer is 15. So, diversity practitioner, the majority of my time spent there, obviously 50, 40 hours a week. And then I find time for these other things. And it comes in like waves. So when you talk about charity organizer, we're talking about two organizations. So the first one is Kicks for the City. And it is a charitable nonprofit, which we have a mission of delivering new and gently worn shoes to the homeless and underprivileged youth. And we do that in a concerted effort. It's a national program that we do in 7 cities across the United States. We even have global reach. We've partnered with a village in Ghana to deliver shoes in Africa. And the program itself is in November. It has been in November. And we do 3 weeks from the 1st of November to the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And again, we use our own networks, and we use different local corporate partnerships in 7 cities. What are those 7 cities? New York, St. Louis, Charlotte, Atlanta, Washington D.C., New Orleans, and I think I mentioned Chicago. I didn't mention Chicago. And it's been something we've been doing for the past 5 years. We've done over a couple 100,000 pairs of shoes. We've had dope partnerships with Nike, Adidas, Athlete's Foot, you name it. And it's been really something that's created some positive impact. We had the opportunity to, get recognized in some different PR spaces with, different campaigns by Nike. We've been on Sway on Sirius XM. So we had, a lot of things with that. And Kicks for the City, Greg, over the year, there's two big pieces of it. So that's that charitable philanthropic piece in November. And then we have like a celebratory and like fundraising piece that we do in the summer called the Agora Sneaker Ball. And the Sneaker Ball itself was really the fundraising opportunity to make sure we can cover our operational costs throughout the year. But that in itself, man, turned into something that's just like, at this point was something beyond our wildest imagination. It is a truly organic, service-oriented formal gala that's invite only, that started from like 200 people the first year to last year we did like 1,400 people. And our corporate sponsors in the space, like Chicago White Sox, Pinterest, Rent the Runway, Adidas, Nike, Athlete's Foot, Jordan, you name it. We've been able to do some great things, and it's hosted, annually in the summertime. And last year we were at the Museum of Science and Industry, and again did over 1,400 people. Unfortunately, because of the times we're living in right now with COVID-19, we had to cancel this year. And it was looking to be the 5th annual, but that's okay. We'll do the 5th annual next year. We'll come back with a bang, but that's been huge. That other piece of the charity organization is with a organization called Breakthrough. And we are an organization that is focused on raising mental health awareness through distance running. Now, how did Breakthrough come about? At Hampton, one of my line brothers that I met there, Yusuf Scott Neville, was an avid runner. And he actually, 5 years ago, actually 6 years ago, took his own life. And, he committed suicide. And it was very, very, that obviously would be for most people, it was a huge blow. So he, inspired me and his best friend, Ryan Schaefer, to really start this nonprofit in his honor. And, our main thing is, again, keeping his legacy alive and trying to, get people to think about mental health in a different way, and using distance running as a way to kind of, be therapy for that. So our two big things is we do Hampton Homecoming. I do the Yusuf Neville Hampton Homecoming 5K. And that's, this year, we don't know what's going to happen with Homecoming, but we'll be going into the 6th year of that this year. And then also in January, Schaefer leads a lot. And Yusuf was from North Carolina, so he had a lot of tentacles in North Carolina A&T and like those kind of areas and that constituency. And we do the Miami Marathon in Miami in late January, and we've been taking a team of people down there for that. So again, promoting our mission, keeping his legacy alive, and that's a little bit about what all those things mean.
Man, that's pretty legit, man. Yeah, I was reading the your website for the Kicks program, and the story with the gentleman from St. Louis who met the homeless guy, and kind of how this all came about. Now, is that homeless guy, like, where? I was just curious, like, do you know where he's at now? Is he working? Is he still homeless? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's actually one of my best friends, one of my groomsmen, and the founder of Kicks for the City, Justin Johnson. And he actually, I've heard him tell this story many times, that he was, working in St. Louis, doing working as a financial advisor. And he used to pass this guy on the street all the time. And one thing that struck him one day is he noticed, like, he's looking at this guy, and he's looking, and it was kind of, a situation where it just like hit him, like, this guy is similar in age to me, right? He looks a lot like me, like, so that just kind of threw him off to the point where he was like, he took an interest and wanted to sit down and talk with the gentleman. and they began just a relationship based upon that. And he would take him to get some food, and one day, like, he asked him, looking at his shoes, he was like, it was getting cold and his toes were sticking through his shoes. And he said, "Hey man, are those the, only shoes, that you have?" And he said, the guy looked back at him with pride and said, "These are my only pair." And he said, then, he thought about it, in that moment, like, wow, like, this is something that I could do, because a lot of things, our mantra is changing the face of charity. Sometimes people think, oh, if I don't have millions or thousands of dollars, why even bother? But, something like this, just like people got, shoes in the closet. That's how it originally started. Like, I have shoes in my closet that I could give this person who's in need of these shoes, and I can make a difference. And everybody probably has that opportunity, right? So that's how it started. I do know that they kept some kind of relationship. I don't know what the current situation is, but that's a little bit backdrop behind Justin and how the organization started.
Yeah, on the website it said something, y'all had gotten to 100,000 sneakers, but you just said a couple of 100,000.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point, I'm not sure when the latest numbers were ran, but we just had our final year of the drive.
Yeah.
We've had, again, and I'm guesstimating here, so the exact number could be closer to the 100 than the 200, but we've had like corporate partners do. So we've had two models, right? We take from the consumer, we process, and what process means is during the shoe drive, right? We collect all these shoes, and again, we ask for new shoes, but sometimes it's gently worn. So we have to sanitize, we have to organize the shoes, and going through all of that, and then we give them out to the beneficiaries. But sometimes, we'll have partners that have worked with us, and we take the shoes directly from the corporation to the beneficiary, right? So, I think the stats on the website might show the former model, where we've done the shoe drive with the public.
Hey, either way, that is amazing. Starting on this, you having this conversation with a guy on the corner and getting him one pair, getting him a pair of shoes, to now you giving away 100 or 200, whatever, 5,000, 1,000.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the little things for me. Like, if you gave 5 people a pair of shoes, one pair, I'm like, that's cool. Like, just continue to see people be kind and get out there and support one another. That whole community wins thing, I truly believe in, and I feel like you would be a big advocate for that, even though that may not be a hashtag or something that you use on a regular. Your lifestyle speaks to, like, you bring people together and you all celebrate life together, do things. So much so that you had how many people on a Zoom call for your birthday? How many people did you have on your Zoom call? I heard about the Zoom call, man. What?
Yeah, I was blown away. It was 96 people, I think, at the height of it. I'd never seen. It was 4 different pages of Zoom. I've never seen.
So what did you just have to keep scrolling through them like this, or?
Yeah. We had to keep, because I wanted to, at least get a chance to see, acknowledge most people. So we just had to scroll through. Couldn't necessarily stop and talk to every single person, but I tried to shout people out here and there. But yeah, it was a lot of love, man. It's a lot of love. It's a testament, I think, to that go win mentality. That if you live your life trying to help others, I think it's a life has a nice way of reciprocating those kind of things, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You put. I'm a true believer in people and others. I think that is what makes life what life is. I think that's what gives a word like love its meaning. So for me, I enjoy it. I really, truly, truly do.
Yeah. So how does my sister feel about you loving people like that? Like, what is?
Your sister is your sister. Yeah. Let me tell you something. Your sister and I we were thinking about this the other day. Your sister knows me better than probably anybody. Yeah. And, your sister is kind of used to me in a way that she can predict, what I am and what I'm going to do. And, she is, we met, we talk about this a lot, like such a long time ago when we think about it. I don't have even like, you know, I grew up, speaking of Nashville, one of the things I forgot to mention is like, I still have a lot of the relationships that I have from growing up. So I know a lot of times I have two different layers of relationships that a lot of
Oh
times
yeah.
people may separate. So I have friends from back home that I've been knowing since I was in high school or even before then that we're still friends now. I have friends from college that we are like family, right? Your sister is in that space, and you know, we've been a part of so many things. Like, we haven't lived in the same place since Hampton, and I think we were talking about this. I haven't been a moment without seeing her, to the point that I think like, oh, she's missing, right? So you know, this idea of just being so close and being there for so many different moments, it's just, you know, it's a blessing to be in somebody's life like that. But like, no, your sister thinks, man, your sister probably thinks, you know, I'm doing too much. And look, I told the story on my party. Somebody was like, because I used to have these birthday celebrations called Mitchell Palooza, right? And the idea would be to get all my friends together, you know, all different sectors of friends. We get together and we do a weekend, we kick it or whatever. And I probably had 4 different installations of Mitchell Palooza. So we called the one this past weekend aptly Zuma Palooza. It was Mitchell Palooza, Zuma Palooza edition. And people were reminiscing about other Mitchell Paloozas. People said, oh my God, we should do that. We should bring it back. I was like, you know, I thought about bringing it back, but I was like, you know what, Lauren Hill's a thorn on my side. She's like, you know what, people don't want to be doing this. People, you burdening people to come out here for your birthday. People got other stuff to do, you know. I was like, she brings the reality check, right?
Yeah,
She brings the reality check, and she is, you know, I tease her about this too, so I don't mind saying it. She's people look at our relationship from the outside in, and they're like, man, she's so mean to you. And like, you know, like she's mean, but like she's not gonna be mean to just you like that, because like she's mean to me like that because we're so close. And she is overprotect. In a way, I think she's like overprotective of our friendship. I tell her like I let her be friends with my friends, but she doesn't want me to be friends with her friends. It's always a problem. So you know, like that's another little issue there. But nah, but I don't know what she might think about that, but that might be some thoughts she might
have. Hey, that is definitely my sister. And via our text message, going back and forth about trying to do some research to ask the right questions. What are some things that, you know, you have hit the nail on the head by what you said versus what our text say. She talked about you being, you know, loving, like everything that you've said so far up to this point. Lauren, I could have just said, Lauren, let's talk about Mitch on the podcast. Yeah. She talked about you loving people, right? She talked about you doing too much, throwing parties or whatever. And the reason she talked about doing too much is because she sent me a text. She said, ask about Italy and New York. Why would she say ask about Italy and New York?
Oh my God. So so I got married last year, right? So shout out to my wife.
Congratulations.
Which is so you know, we made the decision to have 2 ceremonies. Here was the philosophy behind it. So we wanted to have a ceremony in Italy. Why? Because we went to Italy the year prior. We loved it. It was an amazing experience. And that's the other thing. When I have an amazing experience, I want to share it with my network, right? I want them to have the same, especially because I'm also very I'm an only child. I grew up an only child. I'm very particular, and I'm very like headstrong. Like I like the world the way I like it, right? I like to navigate things the way I like it, and then I like for other people to experience that. So I said we went to Amalfi Coast, and we did lunch at this spot called Conga, and we had a pleasant time. And I actually popped the question there at this restaurant. And it was such a good time. Like they literally was like, "Oh, you guys should come back and get married here." You know, people say that in, you know, jokingly or whatever. But you know, when we started thinking about it, we were like, "Oh my God, that would be probably awesome to kind of come back and do that, right?" But we were thinking like, "Oh, that could be like a, you know, very very expensive thing. We wouldn't want to like do that and like everybody couldn't be a part of it. So that was like, all right, well, and then, you know, whether that be because you couldn't travel that far, because of kids, because of financial reasons, whatever it be. So we said, you know what, we got to do something here domestically. So we decided to do a wedding in Brooklyn in June, and then we did a second wedding in Italy in September. And you know, it was crazy because also it was one of these things where we're trying to, you know, we're doing it, but we're also trying to do it on a budget. So we're like, man, we can't invite everybody. I had way more people I would love to invite, but we had to keep the numbers at a certain place.
Yeah.
So you know, like, I'm sure that's what she's saying is like,
Yeah, yeah.
Ultimate doing too much. But if you ask her about, and she texts me about this too, and because we're sitting here amidst the quarantine, and we said, you know what, all those 2019 trips, I'm glad we did, because you know it makes sense now. And to be honest, it's just, you know, I tell people I'm learning, you know, as you get older, you know, you need to learn a couple different things, right? You need to learn about empathy and humility, and because you need to understand like grace, right? And God's grace, and why you are where you are. You need to start to learn about liabilities and assets, and how you kind of acquire things. And then my last thing is you got to learn about, you know, experiences versus materialism. And I'm really big now on experiences, because what I'm noticing is every year that you get older, your experiences in your life change, right?
Yeah.
So that experience that you have, you know, or you create with people and something like that, like, I don't even know when the next time I'll be in Italy, or anybody else for that matter, based on what's going on, right? You know, the experience and that's not to downplay the Brooklyn ceremony, because the Brooklyn ceremony was crazy, absolutely amazing. And like, that is stuff that like is when you talk about, oh, what's etched in my head, just like I can think about being pulled out of, you know, first grade for a six of us, like that's going to stay etched in my head a lot. So, you know, that is what she's alluding to, though. We had 2 wedding ceremonies last year.
Now, another thing she said was that you love food. When did you start
Oh my
loving
God.
food? And when did you start loving food? And then are you one of those people who you will try anything?
Okay. When did I start loving food? A long time ago. So remember I said I was trying to choose between HBCUs or culinary art school?
Yeah.
When I was growing up, my Saturday mornings were like so routine, you know, especially in like the fall, winter time. And, you know, I would wake up, and, you know, most kids are gonna want to do what? Watch Saturday morning cartoons. I'm waking up and I'm turning to PBS. I'm on to the cooking shows. I'm like Julia Childs, whoever. Like, I'm just like enjoying people like cooking. Like, it was like an amazing thing to me. And like that love turned into like a real love of like the Food Network. And then because of my job, I travel so much. And you know, what it's turned into now is an appreciation for like trying various restaurants. Like, I probably got enough content, like pictures and like experiences, to probably do a little blog or something. I'm probably still got that up in the air. But you know, my job with the Kaleidoscope Group is about 50% travel. So I'm constantly in another city, you know, constantly always somewhere. And one of the things that gives me, you know, solace in my evenings is deciding where I'm going to go eat. And I just, you know, have a real high bar for high quality food, for chef driven, inspired restaurants. I told somebody, I mean, outside of Chick-fil-A, I don't know the last time I had fast food. I haven't had McDonald's in probably over a decade. I just really have a strong appreciation for food. Like, I do. I love food, but no, I'm not a person who was gonna try anything. Like, I even like, I don't even eat meat anymore. I'm a pescatarian right now. You know, and I'm thinking about being a vegan here in the near future. So
wait, tell me the
I'm
difference.
definitely
You said you don't eat vegan versus pesky. What?
So yeah, so I should say I'm not eating red meat or pork or chicken anymore. So I'm only pescatarian. I'm only eating seafood. Only fish, seafood is all I'm doing. And you know, when I go vegan, you know, I'm cutting out all the seafood, all the red meat, chicken, all of that stuff. And I'm already not like I'm kind of lactose to begin with, so I don't eat a ton of dairy. The only thing I do dairy on is really like, you know, Italian food or like pizza. You know, you can't have pizza without cheese on it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, yeah.
So how long have you been pescatarian? How long have you been doing that?
You know, Greg, I've watched. I don't know if you've seen this documentary on Netflix called "What the Health." Saw that like 3 years ago, maybe three and a half, 4 years ago, and it just, you know, it gave me like, it gave me, it caused me to think.
Uh-huh.
And when I thought about it, I was like, well, it's worth a try. And here was one of the things that I'm deal with from a health perspective is like my digestive system sometimes is just like slow. And like I feel like when I used to eat red meat, it'd sit on me for a long time. And I feel lethargic and that kind of thing. So I originally just did it to see if I felt better. And I thought I did, you know, and that was reason enough for me, you know, because you'll have some people that say, oh, you don't need to stop eating, you know, meat. And some
Yeah,
people say
yeah.
you do. And, you know, there's all kind of opinions out there. But to me, the biggest one I should probably side with is, you know, how it made me feel. So that's how long it's been. I went back on it. I had a trip to Jamaica 1 year for my company retreat, and the jerk chicken was smelling so good coming off the grills. I couldn't take it. I couldn't like. I had, and it looks, and that was the other thing, because on What the Health they talk about like mass production and stuff like that. I know over there like the chickens are running around free range, like, you know. I was like, you know, this jerk,
But you
I was like,
had
this
to.
jerk chicken smells so good. I had to do it. That's the one thing I
Yeah.
missed. Though. I miss chicken so bad. I miss chicken and bacon.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah, for sure. What are some, talking about traveling and getting to experience food and restaurants and things of that nature, what are some tips that you would give somebody on traveling? Like somebody listening, like, man, I would love to start traveling when we can start doing that again. What
Yeah.
would be some tips that you would give people?
Yeah. Awesome question. Well, first of all, when this opens back up, I was doing this prior to this. First of all, travel with products like, you know, things you might need. For example, having a little spray bottle of Lysol. What you will notice, and because I travel so much, I think getting sick from being on the airport or, you know, catching a cold or something like that is something that I recognize probably happened to me once or twice a year, just from, I think, from just traveling so much. And if you keep that stuff on you, is good, because until now, usually when they, you know, clean planes off in between planes, they just get trash out. They're not disinfecting. So, you know, going forward, I think that's just, first of all, that's my first health tip is carry the wipes, wipe stuff down when you sit down, all that stuff, especially if you got kids around and that kind of thing, because that'll be one of the things you don't think about that you can really do and control. So definitely do that. The other thing I would say is, you know, I tell people to, you know, kind of travel loosely. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you can, I don't ever check baggage. If you can, don't check baggage. That'll make you a lot more flexible. Why? Because a lot of times, and you'll notice this probably when we get back to traveling, I've had plenty of opportunities, and maybe this is because of the frequency that I travel, that, you know, you'll get the volunteer notification. Hey, do you mind, you know, taking the next flight? And I tell people, unless you're traveling on business, obviously, always do it. Always do it. Unless you're trying to get to an event, like a wedding or something. Always do it. But you need to be agile enough to be able to do it. Because if you do that, then you could, you know, again, it's and I fly Delta. I fly anything else because I think they treat you really well. And it's really about where's your hubs. And for New York, it's a hub for us. So I got straight shots. I can get to most places. Then I guess the last tip I would give people is, you know, research where you're going, and have a sense of different neighborhoods. Like when I go to Miami, you know, I grew up in an area where, you know, we were Miami beaching till we can Miami Beach no more. But, you know, now I'm like, you know, thinking about different neighborhoods. So, you know, Wynwood and Brickell and other places. And, you know, I go and look on Eater. I'll give you guys one of my resources that I use for checking out dope restaurants. But you can go the hottest restaurants of, like, I might go to hottest restaurants of Oklahoma City, right? And it'll give me a listing of different places, and I can look those things up, and I can research them. I can look at their menus. I can see who owns the place. I can see those kind of things, and I can organize and understand, lay out a schedule for yourself. That's the one thing I'm real particular about too, is like I understand like where I want to eat, when I want to eat there, if they got a happy hour, if they got, some kind of special going on, and you organize your day around something like that. And I found like creating a schedule is like really helpful. And, especially when you're traveling in groups and stuff like that. Those are the only two. Oh, and the last big tip is just be consistent. I said I only fly Delta, and that way my points, they explode when it comes to Delta. When it comes to hotel change, to the extent you can do it, stay in one place, because that way you accumulate your points, and before you know it, you could really be doing some things, for free.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, man. So going back to your creative agency, Justified. What's the name?
Justified.
What is a creative agency for people listening? Like, what in the world is? A lot of times, I've learned that people will talk about certain things, and there's a lot of people who may not know what a certain thing is. So creative, is that the same as a marketing agency? Is that the same as a branding agency, a design agency? What is a creative agency?
Great question. Again, this is kind of like giving you the breaking news here. We're still defining who we are. Yeah. But here's what I know. We had the opportunity in doing some things on the charitable organization side to really develop some skills and some usefulness that we can probably, create some value in the marketplace with. And one of those things is working with different brands and different corporate entities and helping them execute on different strategies. And some of those strategies, right, might be like a marketing campaign. Some of those strategies might be a social media campaign. Some of those strategies might be what we call a brand activation, right? You ever been to like a fair, or you've been to like some kind of concert, and, you walk over and maybe Vitamin Water has some kind of cool, brand activation going on. Well, that kind of thing just doesn't, appear out of thin air, right? You got to have a team together to understand, what does that look like? You got a team together to look like to create the strategy and to execute the strategy. And, doing something like the Agora Sneaker Ball, we've had the opportunity to do that time over time with many different clients and many different, people. So we've created those relationships, and we've had an ability to deliver, value to a specific diverse population for these brands and these entities. So, that's what we mean when we say kind of like a creative agency. Also in our space, we'll do some artist management. We'll do some other things, but, it's loosely defined for a reason. But, in a way to just give you a sense of, you're out there listening and you're saying to yourself, I got, I'm a brand manager, or I work on a brand team, and I've Googled some of this stuff that Greg's told me about, and I see the Kicks for the City, I see the Sneaker Ball, and these cats look like some good dudes. So when how does this work? If you reached out and you got a project that is similar to the aforementioned, or maybe something that's not, that's what we're after. We're really after just leveraging like our creativity and expertise to deliver value for our consumers, which may be different brands, again, maybe individuals themselves, you name it.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I'm a big fan of VaynerMedia, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's crazy, his language, I try not to listen to him too much when my kids are around, but just the whole marketing and all that good stuff, I really have an interest in it, and really enjoy seeing people, how they work that magic for different brands and individuals, or whatever the case may be, social media campaigns. And Lauren is similar into some of that stuff as well. And so I'm always trying to steal some nuggets from her. And I'm like, now what are y'all doing new, with that $1 million budget? Because I got a $2 budget. But I'm trying to see if there's something I can get out of,
Right.
So it's fun. Hey, before we get out from man, just think, so Go Win is about, what are those right things you need to be consistent in to achieve the wins you want for your life, to live out your greatest story? Man, you've been living up until now, I just listening to your story, man, you have really had some great opportunities, and you've taken advantage of them. What would be some things that you would say to a young person or to some adult that's just starting out, young adult or whatever, there are some things that you say, man, be consistent in doing these things to go live your best life?
Oh yeah. Ooh, number one, be disciplined. You know, ooh, don't let life force you to be disciplined. Be disciplined uh, at your own bequest. And I think that's hard to get a young person to understand. Because a young person, all they do is see life and they enjoy life. That's why it's some of the best years of your life. But to the extent that you can be disciplined, and here's what's a great thing about being disciplined. We all struggle with discipline, but we don't all struggle with discipline in the same way. You know, there's certain things that I can do in a very disciplined manner. I can get out and exercise and run every day. If some people need to exercise, it's something they can't do, right? But then I think it is something that you will have discipline in when it comes to your life. Maybe that's, you know, watching your favorite show every day. It's something that you have discipline around. If you can take that formula and transfer it to other places and challenge yourself, I think the when you can conquer that, you know, you can do amazing things. And I always use a athletic example of, you know, I think, you know, one of the things I would have told my younger self is, you know, work harder at your discipline, at your craft. I think in some way with sports, what you'll notice is some people have, you know, enormous, you know, just out the gate talent, like a LeBron, right? Other people are going to have some mediocre talent, but they're going to work so hard and they're going to be disciplined enough to accomplish some goals greater beyond what they would have if they had. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we talked about it here today, Greg. You know, invest in your relationships, invest in people. You know, I think that, you know, some of us are a little bit more extroverted. You know, they'll tell you all about themselves. Maybe that's me and you, right? Some people aren't.
Yeah.
But, you know, whether you find yourself on that personality spectrum, I think, you know, you need to find a way to understand that, well, you can't do life by yourself. That's one thing I assure you of. So, you know, to the degree that you can invest in relationships and other people and really find, and you don't have to have a bunch like, you know, maybe me or you, you know, but you can find some that are meaningful.
Yeah.
And you can really, you know, you can really leverage those. So, you know, that would be number two. And just, you know, I think thirdly, man, I think it's important to have a sense of optimism. And I have an extreme sense of optimism that may be even looked at as, you know, in some ways like extreme or, you know, like unrealistic. But I think you got to keep a smile on your face and a laugh in your belly. And you got to do that consistently. And because really, you know, the other thing that I can probably promise somebody is that life is going to be challenging. And, you know, life is full of valleys and peaks. And, you know, cheers to the woman, cheers to the man that, you know, during your valleys, that you can, you know, wake up every day with the same smile on your face and the same sense of optimism that you have when you're in your peaks, because that's what right there is going to keep you going.
That's good, man. That's so good, Mitch. Man, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to just kind of hang out with me,
dope.
man.
Yeah, this is dope.
Man.
This is dope.
I appreciate it. Now, I need an invite to the sneaker ball. Whenever
okay, when we come back next summer, we got you. I got
you. Man, I need an invite to that because I think that's super cool that y'all are doing that. I'm all for nonprofits and doing work in the community, and it sounds like y'all have grown a great story there. And so I'd like to kind of see it firsthand, man. So if I can get a chance to do that. Also, man, congratulations on again on getting married and happy birthday to you. I think that's super cool. The Zoom. How do you say it? Zoom. What they call it now?
Zoomapalooza.
Zoomapalooza, man.
Yeah. Before we go though, I had one question for you though, because I asked Lauren this too, and she couldn't give me an answer. She didn't know. So obviously, like, you know, Netflix right now, #1 show in the world is Tiger King. All right. So, you know, my question to you is, I think that zoo he had is in Oklahoma. Yeah. And Nia likes animals, right? Right.
Yeah.
Have you been to that? Have you been to the whatever? I don't know the name of it, but have you been out there?
No, we have not been out there.
I just had to ask. And is Guthrie closer to Tulsa or Oklahoma City?
We're closer to Oklahoma City. We're just north of Oklahoma City, about 30 miles. And then Tulsa is east of us, about an hour, about 90 minutes, about an hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, so we're just right here in the metro, kind of, so to speak. But we're not quite in the metro, but we're in the metro, so we still get the small town feel. But if we need to go to like everything's pretty close proximity to us. So that's what I love about it. I can walk. Like, I can't get to New York, but here I walk to my office. I walk to the grocery store, so I get that same life here. And so 2020, I'm trying to go a whole year without a car. So.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are things that I try to do in my little small community, man. So thank you, Mitch, man.
Okay.
I appreciate you again, man. And so, how can people find you? Are you social media?
Yeah.
How can people check you out?
Yeah, we're on social media. Personal page on social media is at Mitch Breeze. That's MITCHBREEZE. If you're looking for us on social media as organization, Kicks for the City is at K4TC. And Justified is at DE Justified, JUSTIFIED. That in LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn if you need me there. I think Mitchell Brown or Mitch Brown is what you should look for there. So
Mitch
looking
Brown.
forward to looking forward to catching up with y'all. And be sure to mention the Go Win podcast. And I want to just applaud you. This was dope. This is probably I've been on a few, a couple. This one was good. This one was really good.
Good.
So you got, I'll send you some fans. I'll send you some more listeners for sure.
Well, man, I appreciate it, man. I just want to keep better. I want to keep getting people's stories out there. I believe we learn from one another. We inspire one another. And just a great way to connect is through sharing our stories with one another. And you're about community and building that. And so, again, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, go win.